So in this video we're talking about the posterior pituitary gland. Now in the posterior pituitary gland is different here. The posterior pituitary gland, unlike the anterior pituitary gland, I'm also giving you the diagram so you watch. Are you getting it now? The posterior pituitary gland is communicating with the hypothalamus. You get it now? So this is the diagram of the posterior pituitary gland. What can you see now? In the anterior pituitary gland, you can see pars distalis, pars intermedius, and pars tuberalis. Are you getting now? And the cells are concentrated more on the pars distalis. So here, what can you see here? You can see the pars nervosa. You can see it on your screen, the pars nervosa. You can also see, so you can also call the pars nervosa the infundibulum process. So that infundibulum process is called the pars nervosa. You can also see the neural stalk on the infundibulum stem, which is you can also see on your screen. The last one you can see the medial eminence. Are you getting me? The medial eminence. These are the three things you see that makes up the structure of the posterior pituitary gland. And I told you the posterior pituitary gland can also be called neurohypophysis. You get it now? So why the anterior pituitary gland can be called adenohypophyseal. So this is how they are done. So we have given you the structures of the anterior. I'm giving you the structure of the posterior. Pars nervosa or infundibulum process, neural stalk or the infundibulum stem. Then you have the median eminence. Now one thing you have to know that the pars distalis of the anterior and the neural stalk of the posterior pituitary gland forms the hypophyseal stalk, or you call it the pituitary stalk. And I told what is the pituitary or the hypophyseal stalk is a connection between the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus. So in the anterior pituitary gland you have the pars tuberalis, and in the posterior pituitary gland you have the neural stalk. So the pars tuberalis and the neural stalk forms the hypophyseal stalk. Now one thing you have to know, removing the anterior pituitary gland, I told you the anterior pituitary gland histologically is made up of chromophore cells and chromaffin cells. But the posterior pituitary gland is made up of newer types of cells. The newer types of cells is called the pituicytes. So pituicyte or pituitary cells, pituicyte, and they are unmyelinated nerve fibers. They contain unmyelinated nerve fibers. You call them pituicytes. So put it in your mind. The way you have chromophores and chromaffin cells for anterior pituitary gland, that's why you have pituicytes here, which are the newer types of cells in the posterior pituitary gland. So we call them pituicyte, and they are unmyelinated nerve fibers. So see there, it aligns it pituicyte. So since we know about the pituicyte, what are pituicyte now? Now pituicyte are falciform cells, which is derived from glial cells. So what are glial cells? So glial cells are supporting cells for the nervous system. So pituicytes are derived from the glial cells, and they contain different processes and brown pigment granules. Are you getting now? So again, they contain several processes and brown pigment granules. And the pituicyte, again, since they are formed from glial cells, they are supporting cells, and they do not secrete any hormone. That is why I told you that posterior pituitary gland only stores, but they do not secrete. Are you getting that? They do not secrete. Sometimes they do not really store, but in some literature they say they store, because when the hypothalamus produce them, they get stored temporarily in the posterior pituitary gland before they are sent, but they do not secrete hormone. So note it. Also the posterior pituitary gland has numerous blood vessels, hyaline bodies, neuroglial cells, and mast cells. So they also contain all those things. Again, they contain blood vessels, but not numerous blood vessels like adenohypophysis, which is the anterior pituitary gland. So I might be giving you, I'm just trying to give you a broad explanation. It's in your screen, so listen to it over and over and over again. So they contain blood vessels, hyaline bodies, neuroglial cells, and mast cells. So moving on again, now you have what are the hormones forming from this place. Now what are the hormones? So I'll just give you a broad spectrum of the hormones. The hormones are just two hormones. Now the hormones are really produced from the hypothalamus. Are you getting me? And the part of the hypothalamus is produced is the supraoptic and the paraventricular nucleus of the hypothalamus. So when you remember POSA, P, paraventricular nucleus secrete oxytocin, supraoptic nucleus secrete ADH. POSA is on your screen. I'm giving you POSA, P-O-S-A. P for oxytocin, S for ADH. So paraventricular nuclei, part of the hypothalamus, is a nuclei in the hypothalamus. It secretes oxytocin. While supraoptic secrete ADH, or you can call it vasopressin. You get it now? So when they are secreted from the hypothalamus, what happens? They make their way to the hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. Are you getting me now? The hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract is a tract. It's just a nerve. They are nerve fiber which connect the hypothalamus with the what? Posterior pituitary gland. Are you getting me now? So, but what transport this hormone? When these hormones are formed in the nuclei, they don't just go by themselves. You get it now? They don't just go by themselves. They travel through a protein called what? The what? Neurophysin. Neurophysin proteins are binding proteins that bind to this hormone that is secreted and transport them to the what? Posterior pituitary gland. When oxytocin binds to neurophysin 1, it's called what? Oxytocin neurophysin 1 complex. So before they travel through the tract and get stored in the what? Posterior pituitary gland. Why that of the ADH? Why that of the ADH bind to neurophysin 2 and get transported by forming what we call ADH neurophysin 2 complex. So both of them are transported and stored in the posterior pituitary gland. Do you get it now? It's so simple. First of all, the communication here between the hypothalamus and the posterior pituitary gland through a tract, and that tract are transported through protein called neurophysin 1 and 2. Are you getting me now? So oxytocin is produced by paraventricular nucleus, while ADH or vasopressin is secreted by what? Supraortic nucleus. So when they are secreted, they are transported and stored in the posterior pituitary gland. So I hope it made sense to you. So we'll be ending here for the posterior pituitary gland, so short. So we'll be moving to the next one, which is, we'll talk about the first one. What's the first one? We'll talk about ADH. We'll talk about ADH. So simple. You know about ADH and everything that applies to what? ADH. Be sure to subscribe before you tap out. Before you finish, just before you tap out, make sure to subscribe and turn on your post notification button. Get it now. So bye bye.